I'm joined by my colleague Rebecca Underwood. If you want to wave Bex at people. So Bex is Head of Professional Learning at the Avanti Institute, and Bex has been organising this for the past few weeks. Bex, do you want to introduce Rose?
Yes, of course. So Rose alongside James, and is there any other colleagues with you today, Rose?
Yeah, we've got Helen, who's our Director of AO, and also Dania, who works in our AO team as well.
Excellent. So we've got a panel of experts here that can hopefully answer every single question that we've got tonight about the teaching apprenticeship programme and routes into teaching in general. So thank you so much for joining us, the four of you from E-Qualitas tonight. Hopefully this session will answer all of those questions, and we can record it and put it on our website. And it will give Mike and I also an insight into the programme so far. So I think I'll give my details at the end. So if anyone's got any questions, you can either come directly to me or through Rose as well. But I'd like to hand over to Rose and she will give a presentation on the teaching apprenticeship programme, and any questions, please do feel free to either put them in the chat or ask them at the end. So Rose and team, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rebecca. So welcome to this sort of Taste of Teaching, How to Get Into Teaching webinar. So we all work at E-Qualitas, which is a teacher training provider, and as Rebecca said, we're going to give a short presentation on the teaching apprenticeship programme and then also on the assessment only route into teaching. But to start off, I'll pass over to my colleague James, who is our National Partnerships Manager, and he's just going to give an update on sort of where we are at E-Qualitas at the moment and sort of the application process moving forward.
I'm on mute. Thank you, Rose. The classic I'm on mute. So I just wanted to steal a little bit of Rose's time just to give everybody an update as to where we are as a teacher training provider. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I realise the audience won't necessarily want to know too much information, but very briefly, there are two things that have happened in the world of ITT for Mike and Rebecca and the senior team. One of them is the ITT market review, which has been an ongoing process since last summer. And the other one is the reaccreditation bid for all ITT providers have had to or are going through a reaccreditation process. As part of that, we are looking at our curriculum in a lot more detail for 2022-23. So what that actually means for this year, if anybody was looking at June, which I know when we met with Rebecca and Amy and Mike, we mentioned the June cohort. We're not going to be offering a June cohort this year, just because it gives us some more time to look at some of the changes that have come out of that accreditation bid ready for September. So everything that Rose will present about the programme, it's for a start date for September onwards. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up. And then Rebecca, Mike, Amy, we can discuss in more detail offline because it's, as I say, the audience don't want to hear those kind of details. And I will hand over to Rose from that point.
Thanks, James. So I'm just going to share my screen, and as I said, I've just got a short presentation on sort of a summary of what the teaching apprenticeship programme looks like. So in summary, it's a fee-free salaried route for you to transition from being a TA or a learning support assistant into a qualified teacher. To be eligible for teacher training, you must have ordinarily resided in the UK for the last 3 years. You must have a grade C, or nowadays it's a level 4 in GCSE Maths, English language, and if you're training to be a primary teacher, this must be in one of the science subjects as well. If for any reason you didn't achieve these when you were at school, what we can do is put you in the sort of the right direction for you to be able to do an equivalency exam. So a company we recommend is A-Star Teachers. So if you don't have a grade C in one of your GCSEs that we do require, I'm able to sort of put you in touch with this provider and you can sit an online equivalency exam, which would come back and showing if you do have the relevant qualifications for teacher training. And then in terms of your degree, we do ask for a minimum of a 2-2 in a bachelor's degree. And usually this does need to be related to the subject you wish to train in. For example, if you wish to train as a maths teacher, your degree usually does need to be in maths. In some situations, we can accept a third class degree as well. And we would just need to see perhaps some exceptional or mitigating circumstances behind the third class. And then, as I said, usually for a maths trainee teacher, we need you to have a maths degree. We can, in certain circumstances, accept a different degree, one that is definitely still related or has similar modules to maths. So we look at each and every application on an individual basis. And we would look at your academic background, your experience, and we would all take that into consideration. And we have a great team of senior tutors who sit on a committee and have a look at each application on an individual basis. And if your degree is not related to the one you wish to train in, we would obviously have a look at that and see if we can help you, still train in that subject, or perhaps put you on an SKE course, which stands for a Subject Knowledge Enhancement course. So we offer these in all of the course subjects. And if we or yourself or your school don't feel that your knowledge is up to scratch with being able to teach, the national curriculum, you can go on one of our SKE courses, which are funded as well, and you can just top your knowledge up, whether that be at GCSE or A-level equivalent, just so you feel confident teaching in the classroom when you do start your teacher training journey with us. And moving on to looking at how the teaching apprenticeship programme is funded and the salary. So as I said, the teaching apprenticeship, it's completely fee-free and it's a salaried route. So your school will be paying you the minimum of 0.1 on the unqualified teacher scale. And obviously these do differ slightly on sort of where your school is based. So I've just put the salaries from last year on the screen. And then obviously your QTS fees, so your qualified teachers status fees, will be completely covered by your school. We do have a partnership as well with the University of Buckingham, and they are able to offer anyone doing our course a PGCE with them at a reduced fee of £1,500 plus VAT. And we can look at setting up a payment plan, whether that be monthly or termly. And a PGCE is only now needed if you wanted to teach overseas. It's no longer a requirement to have a PGCE to teach in the UK. So the qualification that E-Qualitas offer, QTS, is the only qualification you do need to be able to become a qualified teacher. But if you wish to have that extra qualification under your belt, or if you do want to teach overseas in the future, then we do really recommend having a look at our PGCE option as well. And the University of Buckingham have offered this all online, and it's all independent learning based as well. So there's only one extra assignment you will need to complete alongside your teacher training to be able to get a PGCE. Now, having a look at more detail at our training programme. So the teaching apprenticeship programme is a 12-month programme, and you would remain in the majority of the time in your school. The focus really of an apprenticeship is about learning on the job, which, to be honest, I think is the best way to become a teacher. Being in that classroom every day, you can't really learn how to be a teacher through a textbook. You really need to be in front of the class, really understanding sort of the different challenges a teacher faces every day, and really understanding how to sort of grow as an individual in a sort of a learning environment such as a school rather than at a university, which is why all of our training is still online. You don't need to be travelling once a week or anything like that to a university or an institution. All of our training is provided by E-Qualitas, and we've been delivering teacher training for over 20 years. We have schools sort of up north and down south as well, so we have a great team, and our central team would be administering your application, and then you would have an EQ academic tutor assigned to you and your school for the duration of your training programme. They would actually come and visit your school as well every half term, spend a full day with you, observe you teaching, have a catch up with your lead trainer and your mentor, and just help you with your portfolio of teaching evidence that you'll be putting together throughout your training year, and just making sure you're on track. We've had really great feedback from a lot of our trainees about our tutors, and how informative they are. They're always there to answer any questions you have. You're able to have a catch up with them sort of weekly if you wanted to, as well as that half termly visit. And the second school placement is another point which is crucial in a teaching apprenticeship. So you will need to spend 6 weeks in a contrasting school. So this could be a 6-week chunk, or it could be broken down into 2 lots of 3 weeks. This is just a requirement set by the DFE to ensure that everyone doing teacher training in the UK has a really sort of immersive learning experience, just so they're not staying at one school the whole time. They're going to a contrasting environment, so they get a really well-rounded teacher training journey. There may be a longer stall placement needed as well if it's a special stall. So you will need to go to a contrasting stall for 12 weeks if your main stall is an SEN stall. In stall, you will also have the support of a lead trainer and mentor. So the lead trainer would usually be a member of your SLT team, and then your mentor is usually your department head or your line manager, just so you've also got that in-stall support alongside our academic tutor. So, you know, day to day, if you had any questions or concerns, you are able to go to your lead trainer and mentor. And then if it does need to go any further, it would obviously go to your tutor and then back to our team if needs be. So we really do tailor our program to our individual trainees' learning needs. And you know, if you do have any learning needs that you feel need to, you need a little bit more support on, do let us know before you start our training as well. We have a really knowledgeable team. All of our tutors are highly trained and highly regarded, so we are able to point you to the right person for support if you need it. We've now introduced a online learning platform as well, which is called eTrack, which is probably very similar to your stall's virtual learning environment. So all of our training is recorded and uploaded onto our virtual learning environment. You're able to contact your tutor on there. You're able to track your progress, and your lead trainer and mentor will also have access to eTrack, so they can as well track your progress on there. Just looking more now closely at the requirements set by the DfE. So trainees must teach in two key stages. So they must, if you're training in primary, it must be the ages of 3 to 7, 5 to 9, or 7 to 11, and then at secondary it needs to be either 11 to 16 or 14 to 19. So obviously, whether you're training as a primary or secondary teacher, you'll need to have that conversation with your school and see which age range would be best for you to train in. It may be due to staffing needs that year that you may have to move to one age range. That doesn't mean you can only teach that age range for the rest of your teaching career. It really is just for the purpose of your teacher training 12-month program, just so it's a little bit more focused and you're not having to teach, the whole stall age range, just one specific one. And looking at a weekly timetable, so if you're working, say, Monday to Friday on a full-time apprenticeship, you would have 20% of that week away from physically teaching, and this is what we call on an apprenticeship your off-the-job training. So it would be 20% of your week, and most schools look at this as 2 half days, a full day, or even 3 mornings. So you'll still be physically in school, perhaps you're needed for lunchtime or after school duties, but you'll just be away from teaching, and this is when you'll work on your assignment, your portfolio of teaching evidence, and also when you will attend our online training days as well. So as I mentioned, our online training days, each trainee will attend at least 16 training days a year, so there would be 10 specific training days. So on the screen now you can see in the dark blue the different topics we have for our training days, and then also there would be 6 subject specific ones as well. For example, again, if you're training in maths, you would have 6 days online which are specific to maths, how to apply maths to the classroom, and then the 10 core training days which are looking at the theory of teaching, classroom management, pupil behaviour, and so on. And I'm able to send this out as well to anyone who would like to have a look at this in more detail afterwards. But all of our training is in accordance with the DfE criteria and also with Ofsted with their ICT framework. So now looking on to the next steps. So at TAP, we have a retention rate of 82%. So a lot of our trainees do like to stay at their stall afterwards, and I think that's a really nice thing to do as well. You've built up your understanding of the stall. You may have been working at one of the Avanti stores for a good few years. You want to stay there and fulfill your teaching criteria at the school. And so just looking now at the next steps, if you do meet the eligibility requirements I mentioned on the first slide and you are interested in TAP, I would really recommend arranging a conversation with your line manager, just seeing if it is feasible at your stall. And then I would probably recommend to get in touch with Rebecca or myself, and we can arrange a consultation call and I can speak through with you more detail about the training and the programme. And then after this, I would be able to get in contact with your stall and we would have a chat about the funding, the apprenticeship levy, and how best your school can support you on your teacher training career. And then hopefully we can begin the application process for September. So the application process involves 3 application forms. There would be 2 for your stall to fill in, and then 1 for yourself to fill in. And your form, it involves your usual contact information, details of your academic background, a short personal statement, and then we'd also need to see a copy of your passport, your proof of address, your degree and your GCSEs. And then your school would also arrange an interview and some lesson observations as well, which would make up part of your application. And then once we have all of that paperwork back, we would be able to review it, check if anything's missing, and then hopefully issue you a conditional offer to start with us in September.
Rose, can I just come in there to say,
Yes,
I didn't mention this bit right at the beginning, because it ties up nicely with this last slide. So what needs to happen once that application is back and it's been reviewed, the subject tutor, if it's secondary, or a primary specialist tutor, will actually arrange a pre-admissions meeting with your school, and with yourself as a trainee teacher, and they would look at two things. One, your prior experience in school, whether you've been teaching already in any capacity, look at subject knowledge with you. And the second thing they would do with the school is focus the school curriculum in terms of a beginning teacher's career development, the ITT curriculum that is happening in school, and our curriculum. And it's this key word that has come out of the ITT market review, which is about sequencing what we do with what you do in your host school. So that is a slight change to the application process that will happen during the summer term before anyone starts in September. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, James. So that's it for our sort of summary of the Teaching Apprenticeship Programme. I'll now hand it over to Helen, as I mentioned, is our Director of AO, which stands for Assessment Only, which is a slightly different route into your teaching career. Oh, I think you're on mute, Helen.
That's it.
There we go.
Sorry, I was just busy listening. Thank you, Rose. Phew, there's a lot to go through there, isn't there? So assessment only route. Rose, could you let Dania share her screen with you, please?
Yes, so I've stopped sharing now, so I think you'll be able to, Dania.
Okay,
let's give it a go. Can everyone see the flyer?
Yes, we can.
Hooray, fantastic.
Fantastic. So Dania and I worked together on the assessment route into teaching, and that's exactly what it is, an assessment route. And we'll go through the eligibility criteria with you just in a minute, but it's very much the same, similar sort of qualifications and what we require for the entry requirements. So Dania's just going to go through that with you, and then I'll go through what you need for the teaching experience. Okay, over to you, Dania.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. So the assessment only candidate eligibility criteria is the same as the ITT because it's the DFE ITT eligibility criteria. So in order to do the assessment only route, you have to have achieved the same, a grade 4 or C and above in GCSE English and mathematics. And additionally, if you teach in primary, you need a science subject that's C and above. Again, we do have the option, if you don't have these, to do an equivalency, which I'm very happy to send out some information to you. So you will be able to do that if you don't have these at the moment. You do need to have a first degree granted by the UK, or if it's an overseas qualification, as long as you have a statement of comparability that you submit to us that shows that it's equivalent to a bachelor's degree, then we can also accept this. It's also important to mention because a few of our candidates, sometimes when we get inquiries, they say that they've got a postgraduate degree, but you do have to have an undergraduate degree. So you have to have level 6 credits in order to do the ITT route. So that's something to bear in mind, but you're always welcome to email in and we can discuss what qualifications you have and see how we can help you with that. You also need to send in proof of address and proof of photo ID, which could be usually a passport or your driving license. You would also need to make sure that if you have settled or pre-settled status, or if you have leave to remain, that you need to send this to as well. So the same criteria for eligibility and entrance and qualifications as the TAP route and the School Direct. Back to you, Helen.
Okay, thank you. Can you just scroll up so we can have a look at the experience that's required? So we offer the assessment only route in those phases. Just scroll back up again and we can just go through those phases. So there are the phases that we offer the assessment route only. And we offer most subjects as well. So if you're, for example, you're working as an unqualified teacher in physical education, and you're looking for to gain QTS within the secondary phase, they're the two, 11 to 16 or 14 to 19. And one of the criteria that we stipulate is that assessment has to be across 2 key stages. So if you just scroll down a little further for me, please. Thank you. Okay, so let's have a little look about what your teaching experience can look like. If you've been working in international school, for example, and you've come over to the UK, we can count some of that. And we also specify that you should be teaching in a maintained school in the UK to be able to do that. And you really do need, and this sounds so obvious, but you do need experience of the English curriculum. Now, your experience can be divided by 2 school settings, as long as you've got 2, at least, and we say at least, because this route to QTS is for experienced teachers, those teachers that have been working in schools at least 2 years in total. Okay, so in 2 separate schools. And that's so that when you put your standards evidence together in a portfolio, because I've said it's just an assessment only route, which means that we look at a portfolio of evidence that shows that you are meeting the teacher's standards. We have got evidence from 2 schools. So I'll just give you a little scenario. So for example, if you taught 7 years ago in a different school and you're teaching now, then we would expect you to go and do a 4-week placement, because that experience from 7 years ago wouldn't have been current enough. So another ideal scenario would have been that it's about 3 years ago since you were teaching in a previous school, and you've kept evidence, for example, lesson observations, schemes of work, assessment plans, and then you were to teach in your current school, in one of the Avanti schools, and then you would be able to collect evidence over 2 key stages to put towards the portfolio to meet the teacher's standards. And again, that's all I'm saying, that's all it is, but it's a 12-week program where we hope to get you assessed and qualified within 12 weeks. Now that means that we do an initial visit, we do a review visit to make sure that you will be eligible to be able to be registered, and then it's from 12 weeks on that we hope that you actually gain QTS by a visit from an assessor who comes and observes you over 2 key stages as well. And again, we look at exactly for a range of evidence to look at your suitability, and that comes from your application form. And again, it's exactly the same as the TAP program, where school interviews you and sends in interview notes. And again, James has just hinted on how that's just going to slightly change in terms of the partnership arrangements. And then we ask you to we look at DBS checks and references, and also supporting information from your schools to say just to confirm your experience over the 2 years. So I hope that helps. It's quite a bit of a whistle blow through all that information, but we're, as Daniel said, we're happy to help. If you've got any questions at all, just let us know. This route can be quite unique because everybody's really different when they apply for this, because sometimes they may have got experience of working as a TA for some of that 2 years, but it's important to note that you should have been really teaching whole groups and not just responsible for small groups and TA and learning assistant work. Okay, I hope that helps. As I say, please shout if you've got any questions, and if you've got to put anything in the chat, is that going to be available, Rose?
Yeah, I think so. I think Rebecca's going to be filtering some questions after our presentation. So yeah, if there's any AO ones, obviously you and Danny are able to answer them for us.
We're happy to stay on. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you've got any questions, I don't know if you want to put them in the chat or put your hand up and ask them directly now so we can have those answers. While I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, I just wanted to show you and share this really, which is, you know, the nuts and bolts of why we are doing this in the first place. Thank you to Rose and Helen, Dania and James, all that information, but why we are teaching in the first place. And it's all about that passion, and some of you are doing it already, so it is just that route to, you know, getting QTS and following your career path and everything. So if you are passionate about young people and their education and think you have what it takes, then do join us in applying for this opportunity. You might already be working with inspiring children within your current school. It might be, you know, the next leg, the next stage, the next part of your journey into teaching. And of course, it still is a very prestigious vocation and career path to choose. And if you have great passion for your subject as well, and you have got that experience, you know, do not rule out, like the team have said from E-Qualitas, each individual application is very different, and so they do listen, and, you know, all of that advice is there for you. Of course, there's salary benefits from, you know, not being qualified to being qualified, so of course you would consider that one. And, you know, you have that opportunity to inspire the next generation, which is what we are all in this for. As well, and, you know, alongside E-Qualitas, obviously they are the provider, but to do it in the school you are currently at, if you are one of our Avanti staff, like that retention rate that excuse me, that Rose mentioned at the beginning, that 82%, you know, stay in their school because you know, their school has supported that journey. So inspiring children to love learning and, you know, take those risks and discover their new interests and to be the best that they can be, you know, and you can do that, and the potential is there for everyone. So what a privilege to be a teacher. Like Rose also said, if you want anything in the future, any questions, do come via Rose, E-Qualitas, or via me, and please do email me. Here's my email, so screenshot this, or this session is recorded so you can access this. I'll put it on our website at the end, and let's have a look now. I don't know if anyone's got their hand up to
there's one hand
yes,
up, and there's
excellent.
We've got
Yeah.
Kiati, Shah, and I'll pick up the questions that are in the chat. So Kiati, I don't know if you want to come off mute, and then Sean, I think question as well.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for that great presentation. Actually, it really helped. I only had like one question, which has been there since a long time. That I've done my, obviously, like, you know, English and maths from India. So I'm doing this level 2 functional skills. Is that equivalent to GCSE or not?
No, so unfortunately the level 2 isn't equivalent to GCSE, so you will still need to do a GCSE English equivalency exam. So I can share after this presentation with Rebecca details of the provider I recommend, A-star teachers, and then definitely get in contact with them and see what options they have for booking in an equivalency exam. So yeah, unfortunately the DFE don't accept level 2 at the moment. It is the GCSE English you would still need.
Right. And what about the maths and science? If I've got the equivalent like, you know, document from like as the, like, it's called the NARIC document,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
if I've got that does that, like, you know, work for maths and science, or is it for all three that I have to apply, like do the GCSE level equivalency?
So as you mentioned on your NARIC, it should state on there whether your GCSEs did come back comparable to a UK equivalent or not. So yes. If you're able to have a look on your NARIC, there should be a tick box that would either have a tick in it or a cross on it saying if it is comparable to a UK standard.
Yes, it does. It's only for English, so yeah,
okay.
It's only for English then. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Yeah, sorry, we've got a few questions now. Sean and then Hettel, and then we're going to go to the chat because there's a few questions in the chat. So Sean.
Yes, I work at Avanti Meadows. I'm formerly a HLTA at my previous school, and I work at Avanti Meadows covering all year groups at the moment. I've got a bachelor's and a master's degree. Would it be best set for me to do the 12-week program based on that? The ITT.
Hi,
Hello.
thank you for that question. It's a really good one, actually.
Thank you.
So you need to have been responsible for whole group teaching.
I do whole
You
group
are,
teaching.
okay. Well, I think that sounds as if you meet some of the eligibility requirements. So I think possibly if I send you the detailed entry requirements and then an application form, that might, well, we can go from there. So thank you for that question. It's really good.
Thank you.
Okay, John,
I did my HLT with the best practice, and we cover a lot of the technical standards.
Yeah,
So I've had that.
they're one of our partners as well, Sham.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Great, good news.
John, can you coordinate with Rebecca on that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Hethel, then we're going to pick up some of the questions in the chat.
I will put the questions in the chat, but is it okay to?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a teaching assistant working at Avanti School, Leicester. My background is mathematics, so I've done my master's in maths from India, and currently I'm working. My 50% of timetable is like supporting in the maths lesson. So I would like to check if I'm doing lots of intervention with mathematics as well there. So will that experience of supporting the students in group and in intervention, will that work?
So Hethel, I know we've been corresponding separately, and so I will get back to your email after this as well. I think we are still proceeding, as we had on our call with Rebecca, with the apprenticeship route for you, just due to sort of eligibility and experience. I think we all did decide the apprenticeship was the best option, but if you do want to have a chat about that again, we can sort of arrange a separate call if you do want to go through just sort of the different requirements for each programme. Again, as I know we were having a look whether the assessment only route or the apprenticeship route would be the best, but I think we did come to the conclusion that the apprenticeship was the best. But after this meeting, I'll get in touch and we can have a quick catch up potentially this week just to confirm that it is still the best route for you, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you so
much.
Thanks,
Hethel.
Colleagues, if you put your hand up and you're not asking a question, that's a sort of, the remote hand up. If you could just put your hand down. Let's take some of these questions in the chat. First of all, let's deal with the teacher apprenticeship program. What degrees are deemed relevant for primary teaching apprenticeship?
I'll take that, Rose.
Go on, James. Yeah.
So in a primary setting, you don't need a specialist degree like you would in a secondary setting, because you are teaching across the curriculum. So as long as you have a bachelor's degree that's recognised in the UK and you're working in a primary setting already, as a TA or HLTA, whatever your role is, then you will be okay to teach primary. Okay,
well, here's a specific one for you, James. Geeta, are you still with us? I wonder if you want to ask your question about Sanskrit.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. I just want to know, not many schools do Sanskrit, and it's very unique to Avanti Trust. May I still be able to be eligible to take either of these routes?
Is that at a secondary level?
Yes.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be a subject. There are some anomalies. Some of the subjects, like Sanskrit, Arabic, we get a few of those more, lesser popular subjects, are not something that we would support, because we would need a specialist tutor and a specialist curriculum to cover that area, and so it isn't a subject that's on offer. And I don't know if you'd find a provider offering it. An alternative might be, which might not be a comfortable alternative for yourself, is whether you have any skills or interest in another subject area where you could, even if you needed to do an SKE, train in another subject, gain QTS. Once you have QTS, you can go back to teaching Sanskrit. QTS is the badge for teaching, effectively. That is the qualification. It won't say on it QTS bracket Sanskrit or English or maths. It's just QTS, but that might not work for you personally. So.
James, can I ask on Geeta's behalf, because I've intrigued. But let's say that, so Geeta has, let's say that, Geeta, do you have a degree?
Yes.
Sanskrit.
Yes. No, sorry. I don't have a degree in Sanskrit, but I have, it's a level 6. BTEC degree.
Okay.
Yes.
In what subject? What's
It's electronic engineering from a science
Okay.
background. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so would that be eligible for primary teaching, for example?
Helen, do you want to come in on that? Because I think yes, but I can see Helen, you're on mute, Helen. But
Yes. I think it would be eligible for the primary phase. Having said that, I think you would need to be working in the primary phase and get some experience of the national curriculum in the primary phase before you think it, before such an undertaking, because your area, your degree is very, very specialised. And so it might be that you will need to gain some experience of teaching music, PE, as well as the core subjects as well. So that might be an area where you think, well, I would like to gain QTS, which is as James was saying, it's an award, a status. It doesn't say on the certificate exactly what subjects are have been awarded for QTS, but you would really need to think carefully about gaining some experience in the primary phase before you actually applied.
Right. We're going to have to move on.
Sorry, just
very quickly, and we'll move on.
yeah. I've taught Sanskrit for 2 years in primary phase as well, but I know again it's Sanskrit. It's not one of the subjects.
No, it's not one of the national curriculum subjects yet.
Okay.
So you would have to get some experience and really think carefully about if that's the phase for you. I think that's probably good advice.
All right. Thank you so much.
We've got lots of questions here. So could you just have a quick response to this one? What's the best route of becoming a teacher if you don't have a degree?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So it is unfortunately a requirement to hold a degree to be able to train as a teacher in the UK. So if you currently don't have a degree, I would recommend having a look at the Open University or having a look at short-term degrees. So I know universities such as the University College of Farnborough offer a degree that you can achieve in 18 months rather than 3 years. So if you do want to speed the process up and still be able to do your teacher training, I would recommend having a look at one of the online degrees or the short-term degrees. If you do that part-time or full-time or evening classes, unfortunately it is just a requirement in the UK to have a degree.
Okay, Amy, is this relevant to this? And because we've got more questions, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if there is anyone who doesn't have a degree and wants to reach out to talk to us, do so, drop me an email, and then we can look at talking you through that, those shorter degrees, other options. So I think they're going to be very specific based on the person and what they want to teach. So if they reach out, we can talk individually to those people.
Right, Vimy, we've got a question, which is the difference between a skit and the teacher apprenticeship route. Vimy, if you want to add to that, just let us know. But who wants to take that? I think that's just clarity of in terms of organisation. So
yeah,
is there a difference?
I can take that.
Yeah, thanks, James.
I trained in a skit myself, and for me, the apprenticeship is very similar in lots of ways to a skit. That it's school-based, you're in school, it's immersive teaching, you're there 5 days a week. The biggest difference is that in a skit, on the whole, you would have 1 day a week in that skit provider. Quite often it's a Wednesday, sometimes it's a Friday, and you'd be out of school for that day. Attending skit training, where the apprenticeship you don't, you're in school.
All right, whilst we're on that, Flora, does that answer your question about how many days per week?
Sorry, no, I meant so if we're to do the teacher apprenticeship, do you need to be working full time? Like, for instance, would I have to give up my 3 days a week yoga teaching in order to get the QTS?
So we do a part-time option for the apprenticeship. So we do 4 days a week and it would take you 18 months. And we do a 3-day-a-week apprenticeship and it would take you 2 years. So you could still do 2 days yoga teaching, 3 days teaching, as in subject teaching. But if you wanted to do only 2 days in the classroom, that wouldn't be enough content for us. So we don't offer that part-time route.
Okay, thank you.
Or does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Right, Chelsea, you've got a very specific question, but I think relevant to other people as well. Do you want to ask your question about psychology and what would happen if you went to another school?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, he's fine, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am currently working as an unqualified psychology teacher. So I right now I have 3 A-level classes, and I worry about leaving them for 6 weeks because I was hired to help with the large cohort that we have. So I'm a bit worried about what's going to happen during those 6 weeks with my current class, because I'm employed in a stable job here.
Of course.
And then, so that's one of my biggest concerns, because obviously they have a lot of difficult exams coming up as well, especially
Of course.
But also, if I was to go to another school, would I have to be teaching psychology still? Because that's not always offered at other key stages. It's quite specific to Key Stage 5.
Yeah, I can take that one. So for your first point, you mentioned about the 6-week second stall placement. So as I said, we can break this down. So it could be 2 lots of 3 weeks or 3 lots of 2 weeks, just so you're not away from your class for a long period of time. And this could be split up as well during your 12-month apprenticeship. So you could do some of the placement at the start and some of it at the end, perhaps when it's quieter times and you're not leading up to an exam. Also, on a second stall placement, we could have a look at doing a swap. So you could do a swap with another trainee from another Avanti stall, just so your stall aren't missing a member of staff for those 6 weeks. They have someone to fill the time. The stall do understand that you have to do the 6 weeks as part of your training, so they will help you as much as they can, whether that be arranging a swap or sort of arranging cover for that time, just so you are able to get your QTS qualification without having to sort of worry about the children missing out on a teacher for those 6 weeks. And the second part you mentioned, it will need to be the same subject when you do your second stall placement. I understand that sometimes some schools don't teach all subjects, so we would be able to help you with that. And also your academic tutor that we would assign to you, they will know quite a lot of schools in the area. They'll be fairly local to your school. So if we can't arrange a swap within the Avanti Trust, we're always able to put you in contact with other schools we have in the area. Our tutors are really knowledgeable. They have a sort of a great wealth of expertise, and they're able to put you in touch with anyone else in the area who may offer that subject. But the second stall placement is something that's definitely looked at a little bit later on down the line, so it's not something to sort of worry about now. Once we have the application back in, then we can start having a look at smaller details such as the second stall placement.
Okay,
thank you.
Just one follow-up point. So do you find the placements for us, or do we work as a team, or do I find the placement myself?
So ultimately, it is up to the lead trainer at your school and also yourself to find the second stall placement. So the lead trainer, as I mentioned, is normally a member of SLT. So they'll have a lot of knowledge in ITT, and their main responsibility will be to help find you that second stall placement. But as I said, you've also got that academic tutor and also our central team to help out if you are struggling finding one as well.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right.
Sharmila, are you still with us? Because your question's about working in a primary but wanting to become a secondary school teacher, I think.
Yes, I mean, in the primary setting that I'm in, I work as an English specialist, so I only support English. And as I'm an HLTA, I teach whole classes. But if I were to qualify as a teacher, I would prefer to be in secondary teaching English only. And so I was wondering how that would work. I mean, it would require me to obviously, I'm wondering, I have to obviously leave the school and apply for a position in a secondary Avanti school.
Are you all right to take that one, James?
Yeah, I was looking at Helen, actually. I was wondering,
I was
going to ask how long you've been teaching, because if you're close to that 2-year mark, I'm wondering whether if you then got something moved into a secondary setting, would the primary teaching still count as evidence for AO, Helen?
No, it wouldn't, James.
Right.
It
has to be the same.
It has to be in the same phase. It has
Right.
to be in the same phase, and I think that's an important consideration for you. That if you wanted to, there's no harm really in gaining QTS in the primary phase, because, as I say, when you're awarded QTS, it doesn't actually specifically say which phase you've gained it in. So you can actually still qualify in the primary phase if you've got that experience. It sounds as if you have.
I have the primary experience, but only, as I said, I have been employed as an English specialist, so I only teach English at primary level. So obviously I can teach across Key Stage 2, year 2 to year 6.
Yeah, you might want to look at the middle phase there, so that you've got some experience in teaching Key Stage 3. and go for Key Stage 2 and 3. So then you would have to just go and get some experience of teaching Key Stage 3.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's helpful. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Lovely. Thanks.
Okay. Does experience as a cover supervisor through an agency count?
No, it doesn't. No, unfortunately.
Oh, Nikhil, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry.
It counts as evidence in terms of your suitability for the apprenticeship pathway as an applicant, but not for AO.
Not for AO, no.
Yeah.
I think there's some confusion about whether you need a first class honours degree for the assessment only route.
Yeah, that just means the degree that you got. So sometimes people get 2 degrees, and it really only just means the first degree that you got. I know very often we do get people saying, well, I didn't get a first. Well, actually, it doesn't mean that. So it's just the first degree, undergraduate degree.
Okay, so it's the undergraduate degree. It's not the classification of the degree.
Yeah,
it's 2-2 minimum. Yeah.
Although 2 2s are needed, aren't they, I think?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay, Amy?
Hi, just to pick up on something that someone just said about they would need to apply for another role if they wanted to teach primary or secondary, just as a caveat, doing the course automatically give you a job as a teacher in the school. It would then be dependent on the roles that were available, and you might need to move around. So similarly to when we have our TAs do their higher level TA qualification, you don't automatically start enroll as a higher level TA. You would need to apply for the job, and then that would change. Just a caveat. Sorry, that's bad news, but just pointing it out at this stage. It's useful.
No, that's really helpful.
All right. We've got a really interesting question from Udaya. Udaya, if you're still with us, do you want to ask your question?
Oh, she's gone.
Yes, this is Uday from India. Recently came to UK under spouse visa. In our India, I have almost 13 years of teaching experience, and I have the overseas qualifications, and I did my NARIC, UK NARIC certificate. So with these qualifications, can I go for assessment route, or any suggestions from your side? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So it would depend on how long you've been teaching in the Avanti school here. So you could count if you've got at least a year's experience of working in India, and then at least some experience of working with the English curriculum at your Avanti school. So that would count for you 2 years.
Okay.
Does that help?
No, yes.
Is that yes?
Yes, please, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Peter. Are you still with us as well? This is a fascinating question, isn't it? All right.
Go on then.
Do you want to ask your question, Peter? Yeah.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so I am currently working with Govindas as a nutritionist, and I hold my BSc in nutrition, food and nutrition, then a master's in food science nutrition management from India. But then I came to UK, did a food business master's program again, and then through Govindas, through the catering company, I plan assemblies, I take PSHE science lessons for children, both across like the primary and secondary schools. So, and I have also shadowed in few of the maths classes here in the secondary school. So could you please, I need your guidance. So how do I switch from a nutrition background into maths, because I did take some help from the government teaching online resources, but they eventually said it's not possible, but I really want to do it.
I'm happy to take this one, Helen, if that's unless you
Yeah, go on. I'll probably just help you out there.
Yeah, you can. So I was listening as you spoke, and I was straight away thinking, could be a science teacher, could be a maths teacher. So we would look at, like Rose touched on this in the presentation, we would look at your modules that you've studied in your degrees. We would look at your experience in school, and we would make a judgment as to if you're saying maths is your preference, we would then look at that experience and decide, do you need to do an SKE, which is a subject knowledge enhancement in maths, and how long would that need to be? There are shorter ones and longer ones, depending on where your experience and sort of subject knowledge sits. Once you've completed that, you then do your teacher training course.
Oh, you mean the PGCE? Once I complete the SKE?
Yeah. Once you complete the SKE, you can do your teacher apprenticeship, and you can get your PGCE. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Another question, just in line with this. So when I think it was Rose when you mentioned about portfolio. So like you need to collect, there are few things you need to have evidence of, portfolios and etc. So does it count like the sessions which I'm doing currently? So do I make a portfolio or evidence of it?
So it would be during when you start your teaching apprenticeship, your academic tutor will have a sit down with you probably at their initial visit and explain to you what's needed in your portfolio. So it would be things such as lesson plans you've done throughout your programme, feedback, lesson observations, any presentations you've put together, perhaps examples of some of your pupils' work. So the more evidence, the better really for you to be able to sort of hand in at the end of your apprenticeship, and that's what your QTS will be assessed on. But you have the whole 12 months of your apprenticeship to gather all of that evidence together into that portfolio. And as I said, your tutor will be able to sit down with you and go through with you exactly what is needed. And every time they come and visit the school, they would have a quick look through your portfolio, see how it's doing, and let you know if they think you need to add anything more of one particular area or sort of any additions or improvements you need to make. So you have a lot of help and support getting together that portfolio as well.
Okay, great.
I think the world is your oyster there. You've just got to decide whether you're a maths or a science person.
Maths. Thank you.
Can we just deal with Prem's question? Prem, you've been waiting patiently. I think your camera's on now. Do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to go through it on the chat?
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Prem. At present, I'm working in United Arab Emirates in one CBSE school. Previously, I was working in one CBSE school, international school in India. My question is, actually, I done my UG in BSc Statistics with IT. Then after that, I done second degree in Bachelor of Physical Education. That is 1 year. It is approved by Indian government. At present, I'm working as a physical education teacher, not a statistics teacher. That means maths teacher. So, is it possible to do for my second degree? I can work in UK, or I can do this plan in the future. Is it possible?
Helen, I think that one's for you.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of trying to get the gist of that. So that's fairly a specialist question. So I think you might need to just jot those notes down for me and then come back to me.
We've got them. We've got them in the chat.
Okay.
Helen. So Prem has done a BSc Statistics degree,
yes,
and a 1 year Bachelor for Physical Education.
Yeah.
He's had 6 years experience in India, 4 years in the United Arab Emirates, possibly with a British curriculum. I'm not sure about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So if you've got teaching experience of the English curriculum at some point in all your experience? No. Okay, then the teaching apprenticeship program would be your next route then.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, Prem, does that answer your question?
Does that answer your question? Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's helpful. So I need to do this course, right, in the future. Otherwise, it is not possible. At present, I'm working in CBSE school, so not in English curriculum, not in
Okay.
IT.
Yeah, I think the teaching apprenticeship program would be the best route for you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sean, is that? I mean, I think that's a question for us, isn't it? Really. This is about being released, I think, isn't it, in terms of thing, and the small school. Okay, we can come back to that. Bernadette, does teaching a GCSE or A level in an FE college count as experience?
I'll answer that one. That just depends on what subject it is. So it would have to be for the assessment only route, where we offer a wider variety of subjects and age phases. So we look at 14 to 19 there. So some of that would count, but for the assessment only route.
Okay. We've got a few minutes left, if that's okay. We've got 3 hands up. If we go to Yukti first, and then Flora, and then Amy. So Yukti, if you want to come off and ask your question. Come off mute.
Hi, I just need to inquire regarding, actually, I was working as a teacher in India, and I was teaching in the secondary schools, business studies, accountancy, and I have more than 5 years plus experience over teaching. So and I just want to inquire, should I go with the assessment route, or what shall I do? Because I had only one experience in one school only.
Okay, so yeah, you would need to go for the teaching apprenticeship route where, yeah, because you need 2 years at least in 2 schools for the assessment only route. So the teaching apprenticeship program would be the best route for you.
Okay, so I can't go in the assessment route. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Flora?
Hi, yeah, it's just a question about the science equivalency, because I have environmental studies rather than environmental science GCSE, so I don't actually have a science GCSE, but I do have, I've done sort of still finishing an Open University degree, and I've got a science subject at level 2 of the Open University in coaching, so it's in anatomy and physiology. Would that count, or am I still going to have to do a really specific science GCSE?
Yeah, sorry, Daniel, did you want to just confirm that equivalency for science?
The Open University, it has to be a breadth of science. So if you're at Open University level 2, yours sounds very specific, so you'd need to do, as much as I'm aware, the equivalency for science, because you need to have some understanding of biology or physics or chemistry, not just that.
Yeah, not just the biology part. Okay, that's
okay, thank you. And Amy, is it a point you just want to raise? And I think we'll hand over to Bex and to pull this all together, I think.
Yeah, it's just on the coming back to what Peter said about doing this and then doing the PGCE, and just to confirm to everyone that this apprenticeship route would be, instead of doing a year's PGCE course, you would do your year's apprenticeship and you would gain QTS, qualified teacher status, which is what the PGCE qualification gives you. You no longer need the PGCE qualification to teach in the UK, but if you wanted to teach abroad and travel, then you can do an additional module on this apprenticeship. It's an additional written piece of work that we suggest you would do over the summer holidays. You would pay the difference in the course. It wouldn't be something that we would cover. And then that would give you that PGCE qualification if you had ambition to teach abroad. However, you wouldn't do this and then do a year's PGCE, because you would get your QTS doing the apprenticeship.
Yeah, correct.
Can I just very, very quickly, somebody's put in the chat about overseas qualifications and IGC. We do accept IGCSEs as well as GCSEs. So that's quite an pertinent question with relation to quite a lot of your teachers here.
Okay, all right. Look, we've taken up an enormous amount of your time. Bex, do you want to just sort of pull this together and talk about next steps, if that's all right?
Yeah, there's a wealth of information there, and questions probably still coming in. If there is anyone, be that Avanti staff or our external guests that have joined us this evening, any further questions, any information, I think Rose said that she'd very kindly share that PowerPoint with us as well.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. So there's a lot of information on there as well. But like we've already mentioned tonight, each case is very specific to your needs and your experience and where you want to go in the future. So do please email me any questions. Lots of this is also like down to our schools and whether we can give you placements and things like Mike said. So but this is very exciting that at the moment, you know, last year TAs were, you know, just asking these questions, and now tonight we've got some fantastic answers and avenues to take this forward. So please do email me. I've just put my email in the chat. Any sort of questions, even if you want clarification, one of the E-Qualitas staff have given us tonight. But thank you so much, your team, James. Thank you so much, Helen, Dania and Rose, for all of that information. There's a lot to take in there, but yes, that's fantastic. And we'll have this recording for your information as well, and I'll put that on the Avanti Institute website. But please do email me any questions. A huge thank you to the 4 of you for this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.